Well, after 2 full years of ownership, we finally got the Rubicon 392 to 15,000 miles. In that 15,000 miles, the Jeep has done just about everything. It's went to a ton of off-road trails. It's done the day-to-day work of a normal vehicle. And it's also been on the drag strip. So we've got to test out pretty much all of its capabilities. Now, there have been a lot of ups and downs with this machine so far, but it's been beat, it's been scratched, and it has been cut a ton throughout that 15,000 miles. And today, I'm gonna give you guys the full 15,000 mile long-term review. So to lay out this story effectively and to really give you guys a full review, we got to start from when I actually ordered this machine. I actually just ordered one of the first Wrangler Rubicon 392s, I think, in the nation, and we'll speculate on what the price may be. Keep in mind, I ordered it at all zeros. So I actually ordered this at least a year before they actually came out, and I placed one of the first orders. Now, once I finally got it, at least a year later, I was ecstatic. But the way it came from the factory, it just didn't feel like a Jeep. Now keep in mind, at the time, they didn't offer an XR package or anything like that. You could just get the Rubicon 392. And of course, as many of you know, they come extremely well equipped, pretty much with everything you would want, and even some things you don't. There aren't really that many options other than like the black grille, the trail cam, and the tow package. That was pretty much all I added to mine. Other than that, it was pretty much all standard at the time. So to make it feel more like a Jeep, but still break it in, I went ahead and added some 35s. I wanted to use this as my daily driver and get about 10,000 miles on it as quick as possible. That way we could figure out what would actually break before I start doing something crazy to it, to where warranty's not gonna cover whatever messes up. And of course, with a brand new model, first year of it, one of the first ones ever made, I expected it to have a lot of issues. While it was on the 35s, I really just kept it kind of stock. I did a exhaust, actually a bunch of different exhausts, and just the 35s. Other than that, it was really just appearance accessories, nothing crazy. Added some lights and stuff like that. Left the tune standard. I left everything else standard for the time and was really just trying to get to know the vehicle, see what it really did need, and see what was going to break. Now in that time, the tie rods actually became pretty loose. I had to retighten those. It wasn't a big deal at all. It ended up being a pretty common thing. They just weren't torqued to the right spec from the factory on a lot of the early ones. But other than that, I didn't have any issues whenever it was just at 10,000 miles, aside from a few cosmetic things. Other than those small inconveniences and the tie rods becoming a bit too loose to where they were making popping noises, I really didn't have any issues at all while it was on 35s. Lo and behold, I ended up ordering the 38 1550s and the 20x12s extremely soon after we hit 10,000 miles, or maybe right at it, and we went ahead and threw those on. There's the 35 right there, and that's the 38. These things are heavy. Now this thing is steel on stock suspension. It has no lift kit, nothing like that. And I really just had to do a little bit of trimming to get them to clear. Now, not long after I added the 38 1550s, I ended up cutting the fenders down a little bit different, and I also added the JL Taser Mini. I wanted to have the ability to put this thing into two-wheel drive whenever I wanted, to have a little bit more fun on the trails whenever you want, and also to do some nasty burnouts, because this 6.4 liter Hemi has plenty of torque and plenty of power to have fun with. And you really just can't feel all that power whenever you're in all-wheel drive all the time. It's safe, secure, and man, it grips up good, but it's just not as much fun. So I added the JL Taser Mini, was able to correct everything for the tire size, and do a couple extra things that many of you already know the JL Taser does. But other than that, it wasn't anything crazy. Now, not long after I added the JL Taser Mini, I started having some issues with the battery actually running dead. Now, after I put the 10,000 miles on the Jeep, that was the first 6 months of ownership, and I've owned it for another 1.5 years, and it just now got to 15,000 miles. So I really haven't been driving it that much. I still drive it on my off days, which are 1 day to 2 days a week, but other than that, I really don't drive it. So it was going dead literally every single week, just sitting there. So I didn't know what the problem was. I couldn't track it down. And one of those times after it completely died, I actually started it back up, obviously had to jump it off, and took it to the trail to go riding. And the entire software on the vehicle was like it was a sport Wrangler. It was really, really strange. I didn't have features or access to like the front trail cam, didn't have access to off-road pages, didn't have access to anything. So that was a really, really weird thing. But whenever I got done riding at the trail, turned it off, let it sit for a while, came back home, it actually started working right. So that was something extremely strange, and I don't think it had anything to do with the JL Taser. It didn't start doing that until months after I'd added the JL Taser, so I'm not really sure what the cause of the problem was. It died probably 10 times. I never took it in to get it looked at to see what it was, and eventually it just quit doing it. I still don't know what it is. I didn't change the battery or anything like that, but that is a problem that I ran into. A lot of people have been asking about maintenance costs, and really and truly, it's not that expensive. I've only used the 3 free oil changes that come from Jeep so far, so I haven't had to get any extra oil changes. I'm sure they're about 150 bucks or something like that with the tire rotation, so not really very expensive. The biggest thing that you have to keep in mind whenever you're buying one of these is just the fuel cost. You got to focus on miles per gallon and not miles per gallon, because you're only going to get around 10 miles a gallon whenever it's in the setup like this. Whenever it's stock, I was getting 13-ish, maybe 12-ish, depending on how you drive it. So whenever you get one of these, if you're trying to account for maintenance costs or something like that, it's not really a big deal. You just got to account for the fuel, because that is pretty expensive. Now, I have taken the top and the doors off a couple times now, and usually, if you guys don't know, after you take those off a couple times, you start to get a few more creaks and pops, the normal stuff you get from Wranglers. Whenever they're new and they haven't been taken off, the doors and top anyway, the noise is a little bit quieter. So once you do take them off, it starts to become a little bit louder. You get a couple extra creaks, a couple extra pops. While I was still running pretty much a stock setup with just some big tires, I took it off-road a lot. I beat it and abused it and tried to figure out what its weak points really were, and I honestly couldn't find that many. After I had some time to test everything out a little bit more, I decided I wanted to go ahead and change some other things up. So one of the next things I actually added was the Diablo tuner and the full PCM swap. And with the Diablo tune, it already comes with a preloaded tune for this setup, which works really well. You don't really notice a massive difference. It kind of just feels like it's in off-road plus mode all the time, which does make it a little bit more fun. But whenever we add more things in the future, we'll be able to fully customize a tune and set it up on this thing. And there are a lot of places around that do tuning that are able to access that Diablo PCM extremely easily. Not long after I added the full tune, I wanted to take this thing to the drag strip on the 38 1550s. So me and a friend of mine actually loaded up. He's got a C7 Corvette Grand Sport that's a manual transmission. We went down to a local track, the Nashville Super Speedway, and it was a lot of fun. It actually surprised a lot of people, and if you guys haven't seen that video, you've got to go check it out. But it surprised everybody there, and myself included. So after I did that, I wanted to start focusing on some of the armor a little bit more. So I hooked up with Metal Cloak. They've been helping out a lot here recently. I got the Metal Cloak front fenders, I got the Metal Cloak inner fender wheel liners, and with those you can tell they're basically color matched to my Jeep. I had to paint those once I got them, but just focusing on the little stuff right now. Now, many of you guys already know about my frequent adventures, but I wanted to show you something that's going to make these adventures a bit more enjoyable. My set power refrigerator. So with this awesome unit, all you have to do is plug it into your 12-volt outlet right here, and you'll see it plugs in right there, and you can store it in your vehicle for long trips, for little adventures, whatever you're planning to do. That way you've got the ability to keep whatever you need cool for a long period of time. Now without anything in this unit, it's extremely portable. I'm sure once you load it down, it's going to get kind of heavy. So first off, you've got the normal grab handles. Then once you get it down to the ground, you can see you've got those wheels on the back. You can just pull this out and wheel it wherever you need to go. Now this is quite a bit different than the ones you guys are used to seeing. Once you open this up, of course you've got your storage compartment, but as you can tell, you've actually got two different sections. And with those two different sections, you can actually keep them at two separate temperatures using this right here. Now this comes with two different solutions for actually keeping this thing powered up. Now for the best part, like I said, you're able to set your temperature at whatever you want on either side. And this side is going to be the freezer. So you'll see it actually has a little diagram to show you which side you're controlling the temperature on. Now right here for your settings button, you have a max and you also have an eco setting. So if you wanted to go to eco just to conserve some power, if you have it plugged up in the back of your vehicle, that is a great option once you get it down to temperature. Then you can go right back to max if you need to cool it down quick. Now something that makes this one extremely convenient is you do have the ability to just use your standard 12-volt outlet for the vehicle, or it also has the ability to plug straight into a normal wall outlet. So either way, you've got it covered. I'm extremely excited to test this unit out and take it on some adventures here extremely soon. I'll be able to give you a full review and overview of how this thing works. But if you guys are interested in getting one of these for yourselves or seeing what other options Set Power has for mobile refrigeration, be sure to check out my link in the description below. And a huge thank you to Set Power for sending this awesome unit out. Now for the engine itself, aside from the PCM, there's not really anything I've done. So I still have the stock intake, the stock throttle body, and everything else is completely stock. So for right now, that's pretty much untouched. I still have the standard gearing, which is 373 gears, and none of that major components has really changed. Still have the stock suspension, everything like that. This thing has worked extremely well so far, and I really haven't ran into any major issues. Now with that being said, it's time to go ahead and start adding the parts and pieces that we all want to see. So of course I do need to finish the rest of the armor. I need to get the metal cloak rock sliders. I need to get the metal cloak rear fenders, and then also change the bumpers front and rear. But once we get done with that, I will be changing out the intake manifold, the throttle body, as well as the intake. If we need to change it and put a cam in, we'll definitely be adding something like that. But for now, we won't have to, so we'll see how all that works. We'll be changing up a lot of things soon. And I don't know if you guys saw in one of the other videos, but I've got a different setup for the wheels and tires while we still have it on stock suspension that I'll be able to run at the track. So we are going to take this thing back to the track a few more times to test it out and see how it's going to perform before we start doing anything too crazy for the lift kit and everything like that, especially before we throw on even bigger tires. But in that time frame, we may go ahead and do the 488 Mopar gears. I'd like to try that out too to tell the difference, because right now with the 373s, it feels fine because this Jeep just has so much torque. But I think it has a lot more potential if we get the 456 or 488 gears. And once we go to the bigger tire size, the 40s or the 44-inch tires, we're definitely going to need that anyway. We'll figure out what the actual limitations are on these stock axles, and if we need to replace those, we're going to go ahead and do it. Obviously, to run 44-inch tires or even 40s, we'll need to add some sort of a lift kit. So we'll figure out what lift will work best for what we're trying to do, and we'll go for that. But before we do all that, I definitely want to get some more races out of the way. So all in all, this Rubicon 392 has treated me extremely well so far, especially for it being one of the very first ones ever made. Usually with that, you run into a lot more issues than my minor inconveniences I've experienced so far. I can't say enough good things about this machine and how much I actually like it. It's literally my dream vehicle. Everything I wanted, a Jeep with power. You really can't ask for much more than that. Obviously, there are a lot of exciting things to come extremely soon for this machine. So if you guys haven't already, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and let me know what you want to see next. But until then, Godspeed.